Brings us to John Nance, our aviation analyst for a long time, commercial pilot, author, travels huge amount. Just pick up on what Ron and Lisa said. How do you think it is? Is it better? You flew in yesterday. How was it?
Yeah, I did. I think Lisa stated it correctly when she said a B, perhaps, for the Transportation Security Administration. They've really been doing a good job of putting people who can communicate in these positions as screeners. But they are hamstrung. Last night in Orlando, I'm at the gate, Peter. I'm going to be looked at myself, and there is a 91-year-old great-grandmother, about 4 feet 9 inches high, being wanded by these folks. They were extremely polite, but the fact was they were mortified themselves. And I asked them, don't you have the discretion to take a look at this woman who is clearly not a threat to the United States and say, go ahead, get on board your airplane? They said, no, we do not have that discretion. This is one of the things that has to change. It is absurd for us to be blind to the realities that we've got to take a look at people and make decisions on the spot. Who needs to be looked at, who doesn't?
Well, I think you're beginning to approach this whole notion of racial profiling. Well, let's get there in a second. But it seems to me that if you give people on the ground discretion like this, someday we're going to get smacked by a 91-year-old grandmother.
Well, it always has to be done with a certain degree of unpredictability. I've been arguing for the last year that we need a discretionary-based system. Customs is not perfect, but they are a discretionary-based system. When you come through customs, you never know how they're going to treat you. You never know whether you're going to be singled out. And that uncertainty is what will keep us safe from the type of planners who hit us a year ago, because what they were planning for years was a situation of near certainty. They didn't want any uncertainty. The more we present them with uncertainty, the greater our defense system.
So let's approach the delicate subject, because it's been a subject of great delicacy all year for lots of people, and that is racial profiling. It automatically, say, Muslim and Arab Americans, just insults an entire community. What do you do about it if you're trying to run an airline security system?
Well, I think you first have to start with what we're trying to accomplish. We are absolutely trying to prevent access to an airplane by anybody who would misuse it. And when you backdrive it from there, we have not just a need, we have a national responsibility to make sure that we use intelligence and common sense in deciding who we need to look at more. And that's not racial profiling. That's profiling on the basis of everything from national origin to just how they showed up at the airport that day.
Well, who are you going to look at? John Ashcroft, the Attorney General, said yesterday, in upping the security level today, said they are most concerned about the threats in Asia. So let's accept that we have done some racial profiling of young men from the Middle East. Do we now add young men from the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia?
Based on intelligent assessments. I mean, if you come to work that morning and there is a bulletin that we've got to be looking at a threat from this particular arena, maybe young white American males from the Southwest, and that's what we need to be looking at. One of the questions we need to find out each and every time, are we dealing with an American citizen? What is the background? And these are questions that all of us should be prepared to answer. After all, we're prepared to be wanded and to sit there looking like a criminal being shaken down there at the gate. So if we are willing to do that, why are we not willing to go one step further? There's never any excuse for discrimination, Peter. Absolutely not in our country. But there is every rationale for being more intelligent about the way we're applying these things, and these random checks don't work.
Let's talk about some of the other programs. The Air Marshal program. I hear mixed reports. I hear that they haven't got enough of them and they're working so hard that they just want off the job. Is that true?
I think it's a mixed thing. I think some of them who have left the job have been pretty disgruntled. It's a work in progress, like any human endeavor. I think it's going to be a very good program when it's finally put together. One of the things these folks need to learn is that they've got to be absolutely invisible. They've got to look like all of us. Not all of that has been done correctly. And the sleeping business and flying them too much, that's just part of the growing pains of the agency. We don't want them on every flight, but we want them out there.
I've heard it suggested that maybe government is trying to do too much under the pressure of those of us in the public, of course, and under the pressure of politicians, that maybe they should be a little more focused on what they're trying to do. Do you have any notion about that?
I think they're very focused. As a matter of fact, I think they've created a lot of order out of a lot of chaos in 1 year. Standing up a new federal agency is an amazing thing to do. By the same token, I think that we cannot depend on just the government doing these things. For instance, the idea of putting these screening machines for the bags in the airports, many of the airport managers are screaming that they can't do it in time. But there's a deadline that Congress placed. Somehow that needs to be negotiated, not to sweep the deadline away, but to make it realistic. And that kind of negotiation involves the carriers and the airports, too.
And briefly, if you wouldn't mind, before we move on, I've been really impressed by the public. I mean, the public has been extraordinarily patient. Yeah, there have been some bad apples, but not many.
Yeah, the public has been incredible, not only in their almost infinite patience as they continue to deal with these terrible companies that are now going by the boards as we federalize the screening system, but also in this regard. 3 times in the past year, we have had passengers come immediately to the defense of the crew in flight. 2 times with deranged people who tried to get in the cockpit, and once with that idiot with the shoe bomb. And this is a new world, Peter. Our crew is now no longer just in the cockpit and in the cabin. It's all of us.
Thanks, John. It's really nice to see you.
Good
John
to see
Nance, our aviation analyst. Not many people talk more intelligently about aviation in every respect.